Hey, hey, welcome back to part two of Identity Crisis Can Enhance Your Midlife Journey. If you have not listened to part one, turn this off and go back to listen to part one. Okay? And then come on back here to listen to part two of Identity Crisis Can Enhance Your Midlife Journey. Um, so I left off with talking about the 8 mechanisms that come into play when your identity is changing or when you are changing your identity. Um, so I listed off four in the first part one, and I'm going to talk about the next four. But before I do that, I wanted to touch upon the identity that we can adopt, the identity of fear or the identity of shame, the identity of distrust. There's some instances where we can be in an identity crisis, and at the same time not recognizing that we also adopted an identity of fear or shame or distrust. Um, And I wanted to talk a little bit about that because I remember, again, going back to my own journey, um, trying to start a business. Definitely adopted an identity of fear, because there was months where I thought about, stepping outside of my clinical practice and doing something different, building a brand for myself. Um, and I thought about that for a long time, and I kept getting nudges from God and do it, do it, do it. I'm like, I don't want to. I don't want to. But a lot of that because was because I adopted an identity of fear where I was just like, no, I'm too scared. It's too scary out there. It's too scary. I don't know enough. I haven't done enough. Like all these negative things that I'm telling myself. Um, so that obviously didn't allow me to really take steps to build a business at that time. So it took me months, maybe even a year, before I actually decided to um, let go of that identity. And not to say that I am no longer scared, like the fear is always there. The fear is always there. But I wasn't going to allow it to dictate what I did. In this season of my life, right? I wasn't going to allow it to drive the car that I'm driving into this next season of my life, into this new identity. So I had to let go of that. And I also think about some of us who have attached an identity of shame when it comes to just dealing with their menopausal symptoms, right? Identity of embarrassment. You're having a hot flash during a meeting or, in the company of people. Um, and that can trigger or, cause us to feel shame or embarrassed. And again, because of that, we don't take the steps that we want to take, because we don't want to feel that. We don't want to, um, be viewed as that, sweaty woman, whatever that thing is, right? So we again can attach ourselves to these identities that's really not serving us, right? Because it's keeping us in this realm of struggle. It's keeping us in this realm of not really fulfilling or walking in our purpose because, again, we are either afraid or we have shame or there's distrust. So we also have to recognize that we also adopt different identities as we are aging and, doing different things in our lives, there may be some identities that we actually, also adopt in the process that we have to recognize and then let go of and shift our thinking and shift our beliefs about ourselves so that we can do amazing things. Um, the amazing things that we are being called to do, like build a business or whatever that thing is. So I wanted to touch a little bit about that. So going back to the article I was reading, I mentioned in the last episode, I'm in part one, Psychology Today. It talked about how our identity changes and 8 mechanisms of how our identity is changing or can be changed. And I talked about in the part one, the first 4 was greater self-awareness, social networks, behavior change, and improved self-efficacy. So now going to number 5. Number 5 is stigma reduction. Now that is a big one, right? Because if you think about all the stigma that surrounds menopause, all the stigma that surrounds aging, especially for a woman, right? Like if you let them tell it, the society, the cultural norms, you let them tell it, when we're aging, when we reach perimenopause and menopause, your life is over, girl. It is the end. It is all downhill from there. Right? I've heard that so many times from patients in my office. We know when I first started in when I first became an attending physician after finishing my residency training, and I would see, menopausal women, older women, and a lot of them would tell me, "Girl, you just wait. When you get to my age, which was any age 40 and above, it's just all downhill from there." I heard that so many times, y'all. So many times. And because we don't talk about menopause enough, especially amongst ourselves, amongst our families, there's shame, or we don't talk about it. There's shame around it. It's like, oh my gosh, that's taboo. We don't talk about menopause. Why are we talking about that? What are we doing that for? So the stigma that surrounds it, that can affect our identity, right? So when we're aging, we're becoming perimenopausal or menopausal, we're like, oh God, like I don't want to be her. I don't want to be that woman, right? So if we now then counteract that with reducing that stigma, right? And really step into our being of being that woman, that aging woman, right? And change what that looks like, right? So reducing that stigma, reducing that shame, all of that helps shape and change our identity to become that woman you're supposed to become, right? So stigma reduction is huge when we think about the menopausal transition and what we are experiencing. We really have to detach from the stigma that surrounds it and step into who we are, and step with power, step with authenticity, and own who we are in this season of our lives. So stigma reduction is important. That was number 5. So number 6 was a greater sense of purpose. Now, it talked about having a healthy identity um, by engaging in meaningful and valuable activities and things. And it goes back to, again, taking the time of sitting still with yourself and asking yourself, okay, who am I in this season of my life? Because there are seasons. I mentioned back in the last episode, there is an evolution of this. There's an evolution of our identity as we, coming from, you know, a very young woman to now some of us being moms, being career women, um, just doing different things in our careers, and then also taking care of our families, now being caregivers. That there's things are evolving, and we have to take the time to ask ourselves, what is our purpose? Why am I here? And that purpose changes. And we have to be open to that change, right? For me, again, as a doctor, I thought my purpose was to become a doctor, go into practice, and be in that practice for the rest of my career, right? The rest of my life until I retire. That's what I thought my purpose was. But I realized that that changed. That changes. And again, I was resistant, y'all. I was like, no, but this is what I'm supposed to be. I went through all this education, all the things I missed, with family because I was studying, because I had to stay in school, all this training that I did, all these nights that I stayed up until the wee hours of the morning studying. Why would I go do something else? Like, that's not my purpose, is this thing, isn't it? So I had to let go. I had to stop resisting and be okay with evolving, my identity evolving, my purpose evolving. And when you have this greater sense of purpose, you do the things that align with that, which again makes your identity, healthy and you actually owning that and being comfortable in that. So having a greater sense of purpose is important. That's number 6. Number 7 is access to resources. Now, as you're going through these identity changes or crisis or decisions, you need support, right? You need support, whether it's from your family, your friends, your doctors, coaches like myself, your sister circles. You need access to those support, and I think that also just connects back to the connections, the social connections that we make. We have to not only develop and expand a new relationship with ourselves, but also expand those relationships with other people that can actually support us through this journey, support us through this evolution of our identities. And that, as we all know, the people that we hang around, the people that we connect ourselves to, that also impacts who we are, right? That also impacts how we show up. So if we have a good sister circle, if we have good people that really, again, support us and pour into us and lifts us up when we do fall down, we do feel sad or feel whatever, we're able to connect and have access to that person or that thing that really fills us back up so that we can keep going and own the identity that we are evolving into in the season of our lives. So having that access is also important as our identity is changing. And the last one, number 8, is rejecting counter normative identities, rejecting it. So as I was talking about before, how again there's so much stigma around menopause and perimenopause and aging, and how they want us to think like, oh my gosh, your life is over. It's all doom and gloom. You old, you gonna be all dried up. Your vagina gonna be dried up. You're gonna be walking around here with moo on and all this. I had someone say that to me, like, oh, I'm gonna grow up and I'm gonna age into this old woman who wears a moo and vagina all dried up. And I'm like, what? Who? No. I reject that. I reject that thought. Don't put that in the universe. So we really have to be um, uh, vigilant about rejecting those things. Like back in the day, y'all had this your own perspective of what a menopausal woman looks like. We here to change that, honey. Like, no, we're not doing that. That's not what we're not gonna be sitting around here with big rollers in our head talking about, oh, now I'm old, child. I can't do this and I can't do that. No, we're gonna reject it all. Even when you're again doing new things like building a business. Oh, you too old, it's too late. Like, no, reject it. Reject all of that. Because when you do that, you reject that, you let go of that, then you can step into who you really are, who you are becoming. Accept her and move in a way that actually aligns with your purpose, what God put you on this earth to do. So we really have to be intentional about changing the narrative, right? Changing the story because we are in charge of our own stories. You are in charge of that. No one else can write your story but you. Some people try now. They want to put on you, this is who you are. This is what you do. Like, nah, that's not what I do anymore. That's not who I am anymore. I am her now, right? So really owning that and accepting that um really impacts how your identity is evolving and you actually showing up, right? So that was it. All right. So just to recap the last four: stigma reduction, greater sense of purpose, access to resources, rejecting the counter identities. Those are the things that go along with how your identity is changing when you are getting into these midlife years. So I want to also share this quote that I mentioned in the last episode, Pastor Torre, in the sermon that I was watching. He mentioned this Mark Twain quote and he added to it, which I also thought was powerful. So, the Mark Twain, if you haven't heard of it, the Mark Twain quote is: "The two most important days are the day you were born and the day you find out why." Now, Pastor Torre added to it another important day, and that is the day you embrace who you are in your divine purpose. So, the three most important days are the day you were born, the day you find out why, and the day you embrace who you are in your divine purpose. And if you are in a place where you feel like it's a crisis, right? You feel like you're not sure as your body is changing mentally, physically, emotionally. You're unsure what this identity is, you don't know how to accept it. You don't know how to move through it and actually continue on to do the things that you actually want to do the things, big scary things like build a business. Join my free masterclass, Menopause Mogul, Harnessing Your Energy for Business Success, because we are going to talk about how, going back to how we need to change the relationship that we have with ourselves in order to really connect with who we are and our why, our purpose on this earth. I'm going to help you in this masterclass, help you figure that out so that you could do the amazing things that you are being called to do. So click the link in the show notes. I am going to also put the website here on YouTube in the show notes. Again, the website is drjoyelle.com/menopause masterclass to go register. I'm also offering VIP coaching for $49 for those of you who want more personalized coaching directly from me. To really dig a little deeper into what your issues are, what your challenges are, in this midlife journey, and then give you strategy on how you can then move forward and take the steps you need to take to build the business that you have been thinking about, dreaming about over these last however many years. So register at the link. All right. All right, y'all. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Please share. Please subscribe if you have not subscribed. As always, sending love and light to you all. And I will talk to y'all next time. All right, y'all. Take care.